I feel like a lot of our kids or a lot of our teachers, we can't talk about church and stuff like that. And I feel like a lot of our teachers feel like they can't talk about this for the same reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they think they have to like hold this line of like, I treat everyone, so I can't say I'm for this and then against this. And
Right.
you know what I mean? And like, I think to just not make anybody mad, they just don't say anything at all. Like, that's kind of where I feel like a lot of our teachers, I feel like all of the teachers, well, not all of them, but most of the teachers at East would do anything for any kid. But they just don't really know what to say or what's appropriate to say. And I feel like sometimes even if they try to say something, it actually just sounds worse. So they just don't say anything at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and then, we support the police because they work for us in our schools. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's tough in that case because, you don't want to say F the police if they're trying to help us too.
Right.
But,
Right.
I think that's what the understanding of what is actually being said, they're not quite getting. So, and all of our teachers live in the suburbs.
Gotcha.
Like honestly, a lot of them live outside of the city. So that doesn't help because they don't live in the community that they teach. And so that makes it hard too. Sorry.
So for me, I see every kid that works out. So I see everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been really like eye-opening in a way that I think that I never got it before, because like I've been a part of protesting since I was like 15.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was 15, I couldn't, like, even into my 20s, like what you actually understand of what's going on is really different.
Right.
So now, like, I'm a mom and I have a kid, and I think about like mothers losing their children in a different way. Like, it hits me way differently. And so for me, I've been protesting, I've been talking. I was just in a Zoom meeting today. I've been talking to as many people as I can, like people in the community, because that's the one thing that we lack, which is like honestly why I reached out to you, is because we don't have any people really that we can reach to and say, hey, like, can you help us start this conversation?
Right.
So for me, it's like I'm all in. Like, I'm stoked. Like in a gentle way. You know what I mean? Not like, but like I'm really, really happy to see this happen. But the thing for me is like, and Bentley and I have talked about this, I don't want it to be something that's really like, it's got a lot of momentum for 2-3 weeks. And then when we actually get to see our kids again, it's like nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, like I want to make sure that this is like at the front of what I'm doing just forever. Like, it's because it's not gonna go away in a year.
Right.
I think we can understand that. And so it's like, for me, I don't know specifically what to do. And I want to be careful what I do, because I don't want to do more harm than good. Right. I've been told by a lot of people that I've talked to that like doing something is better than nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to know what we should, you know what I'm like, not what we should do, so that you can like tell me that here's step one.
Right.
It's like,
right.
Like, my first like real, like, I don't want to say personal, like aggressive attack was today on the Zoom when like a white supremacist group hacked it and were screaming like insane stuff at us. And it was just like, that's really like, you're just not prepared. Not that you ever are, but that's like, that stuff has made me like way more aware. And I don't know. I guess, that's not a very like direct answer, but
no, that's
all I got.
that's crazy.
I don't know if you know him. His name is Byron Beeman. He's like, he coaches out in Boston. I think his Twitter is like I don't even know what it is. He's a coach, football coach. and he's just been doing Zooms for like
Mhm.
basically anybody that wants to learn, and he's been kind of walking through like plans. And today was like, think of what it was called. It was just levels of engagement. So it was like how to engage with your players about everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And it was honestly like, our meeting was like 10 people,
Mhm.
and then it went from 10 to like 50
Wow.
in like a minute. And it was just like, they were
I
just
gotta check them out.
it was nuts. It was just like screaming and yelling and
I mean,
lots of
minus that
music.
part, yeah.
Yeah.
Minus the screaming.
Yeah. I was like, gee.
Yeah, it's cool. So, it's interesting because you actually, when you messaged me, I actually spoke with, wow, I just forgot his name. But he's the director of wrestling sports science at Ohio State. And he messaged me like 2 days before you did. So I talked to him last week, pretty much about the same thing. Just like what what can you guys do as non-minorities to help your athletes that are minorities? And so, not to be completely repetitive, but completely repetitive. Basically, the main thing that I wanted to impress upon him was that just acknowledgement and awareness, um, not necessarily in that order, but those two things I think can be, uh, at least starting out, can make a greater impact than people would like to admit, just because they're so simple. Um, just acknowledging the fact that you see what's going on, you see that there are people hurting, you understand why they're upset, why they're hurt, um, and then you put that message out there and essentially be, not necessarily um, a megaphone, but being an echo for the people that are hurting, just listening to them, listening to their complaints, their disservices, all of the things um, that, whether it be the Black community, Hispanic community, whatever community it is, just being the echo to their problems, because you guys have essentially, and as bad as it is, but it's the reality of, you guys have more power than we do, in terms of making a change. We have the power to voice the concern, but to make the change, it's kind of, the ball's in you guys' court, as far as um, really moving it forward to make it happen. Um, so just, awareness, acknowledgement, and then education, just like everything else. And that's not just for, white people, but for all of us, white, Black, Hispanic, whoever, just educating ourselves on the history, as much as possible, obviously. Educating ourselves on the history of, different demographic or cultural backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, to figure out how we all got here, how the country has been operating and is operating, and just having the tough conversations. This is where we live. This is America, um, and as patriotic as most people want to be, the harsh reality is that this might not be the greatest country in the world, for everybody, I should say. Um, so those three things, I think, are uh, the biggest rocks, I suppose, to take care of, um, as far as making change, voicing, or being an additional voice for the people that are hurting, and getting us to the point in the future where we can say, I don't see color, because we're beyond it. Awareness, acknowledgement, education, and then just like you guys are already doing, reaching out across the aisle, if you will, to people that don't have the same background, that aren't from where you're from, that have different experiences, just so, you've already got the history piece and learning that, but just learning what people are currently going through, what they've been through, in the recent past. You know, try to empathize as best as you can. Not in a patronizing way or condescending or anything like that. But just so you can understand how to help them, essentially. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Brett Bartholomew. He wrote the book
Yeah.
Conscious Coaching. Yeah. So that's, I think, is a great teaching point. It is awesome that it came out so recently, because it has more implications than just for coaching. Right now, you know, you gotta understand the people you're around, the people you're working with, the people you live near. Understand that they don't come from the same place you came. They don't think the same way you think. So their perception of what the world is 9 times out of 10 isn't going to be the same as it is for you. And then just how to work through that as opposed to work around it, which I think has been kind of probably what the issue has been in America for the last however long. You just try to work around it as opposed to working through it to actually solve the issues, to come out better on the other side. Because working around it doesn't do anything to the problem. It just kind of masks over it, or, you know, put it in the back of your brain until it pops up again, and then we'll just do the same thing all over again. But working through the problem to fully understand and grasp the context and the severity of the problem, working through it, and then going from there. So yeah, conscious coaching for sure is probably, I don't want to say it's the answer to the problems, but it definitely, you know, just as far as the message goes, not necessarily, I'm not going to tell everybody to go read conscious coaching. I'm not getting paid or endorsed for it. But, you know, just getting the message, just understand that people are different, and that's okay. It's okay that people are different. It's okay that nobody thinks like you. No two snowflakes are all the same. But at the end of the day, it's the truth, and we have to learn to live with it. And then we have to find the courage to talk about it, which is kind of, I guess, where you saw my tweet from a couple weeks ago that kind of blew up weird. But I kind of just got it was just an observation, and I felt like it was not necessarily my place to voice my opinion, because nobody knows who I am, which is completely fine. But I just, you know, just felt the need to say something. And that goes back to your point of, you know, doing something is better than doing nothing, which is, you know, is a starting point. So I don't think trying to look, you know, to the finish line so soon is the best way to go about just get it started, get the ball rolling, and, you know, deal with what comes from there. Please.
I've participated in a couple Zooms now, like, with this topic. And the one thing I keep hearing is you got to start with, like, you got to reach out to parents. You got to get parents involved. You have to, but like our school, that's a task that is very difficult. Like I feel like our situation maybe isn't unique necessarily, but it's unique in the fact that I just feel like I would love to talk to parents. I would love to hear what they need. Because I'm doing a Zoom Friday. So what I did is I asked certain alumni and then kids I have to tell me what you want. Like, what do you need? Like, I'm not going to tell you what I think I should do, but I want you to tell me what you need. And tell me what you need from strength and conditioning. Tell me what you need from athletics. I don't have a super strong voice in our athletics department, but I might, between the two of us, maybe the other two that were here, we might be the only ones saying anything. So, like, that's on me to do that.
Yeah.
But I just don't really know how to bridge that gap. Like, that's.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think parents for sure should be a part of the conversation. But just, I don't know how old you guys are, and I'm not going to ask because none of my business. But
I'm
I
16.
know, I know, certain um, generations of parents aren't, completely open to change. The old saying, you can't teach old dog new tricks. Not to say, obviously not all older people are racist by any means or closed minded or anything. But I definitely think if parents are willing to listen, um, they should or not listen, but are willing to have the conversation um, as open minded as possible. Um, not just with you all as coaches, but with students as well, especially students that are part of the minority population, um, then that should definitely be attempted. But I think the more important, at least to me, I think the more pressing issue is having that conversation with the kids. Um, just because at the end of the day, the children are the future. Um, and they're the ones that are going to, because as hard as we try right now and as many Zoom calls and as many tweets we put out there, it's not going to change next week. They'll probably find a cure for COVID-19 before racism is over, but I think when we can have that conversation with the kids, and put the thought in their head and the feeling um, inside of them that just like I was saying before, we're all different and it's okay. You don't have to, you're not gonna like everybody in your life, but that doesn't mean you need to put them down or try to restrict them from living their life as peacefully as you are. They're going to be here longer than we are for the most part, so I think um their opinions, their thoughts, and their actions will be more impactful than their parents will. Again, not saying that the parents shouldn't be a part of the conversation. They most certainly should. Just because, all this stuff, everything that's going on right now, all of it starts at home. If you're not, and I don't have kids, but I'm assuming there are guidelines for raising your child correctly in some form or fashion. Not to say there's, a checklist that you have to go down, but there's a path you should generally follow to raise a decent human being. So if that's not happening, um, either at all or they're going in the wrong direction, then it's not much. And I've experienced it the same way, even being a black coach at a predominantly white school in a predominantly white area. There's only so much I can tell somebody's parents, even as far as either just football or strength and conditioning. They only listen to me so much, but the kids probably, and you guys know this, the kids probably see us more than they see their parents, especially during the school year. So in a lot of cases, we'll have more impact on them than their parents will. Conversation with the kids, um, I think should be at the top of the list. I think should be at the top of the list. Just because there's so much more impactful and they can make so much more changes, especially in the high school ages. They most of them are 4 years away from being able to vote and make changes of that nature. And there's more of them now than there are of anybody else. So if they can um, start leaning toward or a better future for the country and for the world, the better off we'll all be.
Also trying to teach kids to advocate for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's way harder than I ever thought it would be, to allow kids to tell you how they feel. And they're just so afraid to do it. And there's a lot of fear there. I can't fix it if I don't know, but I would say a lot of our black athletes don't know how to do it. They just don't know how to advocate for themselves because they've never had that permission. And, you know, as a coach, sometimes it'll be tough if you say, hey, I need you to tell me how you feel about this program, because you better be willing to understand what they're going to say, because it might not be good. You know what I mean? Like, they might tell you that you're a trash coach, and you know, at the end of every season, I'm not sure you guys do, but one thing that our AD has to do is they hand out surveys to every athlete in the program. And so one of the reasons why they do it is for numbers cases, because if I say I have 60 girls, then it gives me more coaching staff. And so if I say I have 60 girls, then they expect to have 60 surveys filled out. And those surveys basically just ask about the program. Like, you know, are the facilities okay? What about your coaches? Blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of a reflection on me on how they fill that out. And so that's about the only way our students have a chance to discuss like issues within a team. But it doesn't really ask the questions about like if they thought they were treated fairly, or if there was ever a situation where they thought maybe they were kind of discriminated against, or for whatever reason. And so that's something that maybe they'll try to start looking into a little bit more. But I don't know that it's an issue enough at our school to do that.
Right.
Just because
I think it is. That's all I get all day long.
I understand, but that's the problem is like you're getting that, but like coaches aren't getting it, right? Like the AD isn't getting it. And so like if we hear stuff like that, then I guess that's our job, is to let the administration and the AD know, because if he thinks everything's going well and kids are filling out these surveys and everything's going well and they like their team and all that, then there's no need to look any further, you know?
He's right. Our kids don't know how to advocate for themselves, because either one, they have and they've been met with resistance, or they've been punished, or they've lost their spot, or it's been something where like, hey, I spoke out against my coach, and now my coach literally makes me run extra every time. And then if you see that happen to your teammate, like, you can bet you're not going to do it. Are you kidding? Like, and then all of our alumni, they're like, well, I don't even care. Like, I'm out of here. I don't want to look back. Like, I'm over it. And so we have this like perpetual thing that happens where there's favoritism. There's like, I think there's definite racism, whether it's like understood to the person who's delivering it or not. And it's at that point where like, I know on Friday that this is going to be something that's brought up. And that's like my struggle, is like, I'm just like, when you like, I'm not very tall, I'm not very big, I get mistaken for a kid all the time. Like, I don't carry weight. Like, they just don't care, you know, like, and it's not like, technically I'm supposed to be like, I have an assistant AD title. No one cares. I don't do anything about it. Like, it's not technical or anything, or it's not assistant AD. I can't remember what it is, but it's something along that lines. And so that's what we've talked about, is like, where like I almost feel like I need like a what do you call that? Like not a spokesperson, but someone similar to be like, can you deliver this for me? Because I'm not really sure how to make this heard, and it needs to change. And I think we all at East can agree that a lot of things need to change, but it's that like, where even do you start? How do you start? Who do you like?
I think one thing that I've really learned in the last couple of weeks is actually how political education is. In a public school setting, you know, like it's pretty wild. I didn't realize it until, I really started kind of noticing it during COVID too, like just kind of the policies put in place and decisions being made for certain reasons. And then with this stuff going on, you know, it's difficult to talk about, because you don't really know. Like, I know that I'm free to speak on it, but it's like, man, you make the wrong person mad. Like, really, what are you doing to yourself? Like, you know, am I going to blackball blackball myself into the fact of like, okay, well, now I want this position. No, that guy speaks his mind. I don't want him in that position because he's going to be too loud or whatever, you know, like that's kind of where like we can get ourselves in that predicament. But I suppose, you know, it is what it is. Like that's we have to use our platform in any way we can. Like we do reach a lot of kids. And, you know, my goal is always, I want all those kids to always come back to me and talk to me. And this is my 3rd year as head coach at East, and it's my 5th year associated with the school. And I talk to all of the kids that have graduated that were on my team and my program. And so that's been nice. But again, I don't reach that Black community very often just because of the sport that we play. Mm-hmm. So, you know, when I coached basketball, then that's pretty much all that it was. But with soccer, it's just a different clientele, I suppose. Yeah. But they have issues too, though, you know, like the Hispanic community, sure. You know, you got people getting deported all the time, and that's super scary. And yeah, so I don't know. It's just kind of a tough thing. And I guess it's just one of those deals where we have to decide, like, is it worth it for us or not? You know what I mean? And yeah, I think right now we've decided that it's worth it. And so we're going to do our best to learn and listen and hope our kids talk to us. And that's the hardest part.
Essentially, I guess what I'm hearing is, you know, you have the kids that are voicing their concerns to you. But I guess you just don't want to step on toes or do more harm than good, I guess. And really how I at least have been carrying myself over the last few years is just you have to make people respectfully uncomfortable. So, you know, going to the AD, laying it all down on the table and 100% truth without sugarcoating anything, just giving it to him straight, and then whatever he decides he wants to do with that information, by all means, you know, go for it. But that doesn't at all take the responsibility off of us as coaches, because we still, you know, the students came to us, so we should really be their frontline advocate if they're not, you know, either able or willing to advocate for themselves. So yeah, just making people, even not just the AD, you know, other coaches, you know, letting them know that there are kids on their teams that have something to say because something's bothering them, and then doing everything you feel in your power is necessary to use your platform to help them out. And I think, not to go back to conscious coaching again, but the message at the end of his book, after going through all of the different types of athletes and individuals you come across, he was saying not to coddle them in the way that they need to start. Because in the area I coach in, is relatively affluent. It's an older, predominantly white community, a lot of military families. So there's a lot of privilege, and a lot of entitlement. So a lot of times there are complaints. And I don't want to say more times than not, because there are obviously valid complaints and disgruntled athletes and parents and all that. A lot of times there are cases where they're just kind of whining, for the lack of a better term. You know, and that's not to say we don't listen to it. We got to, you know, listen to all of them. But it's up to our discretion, and I guess being aware of the current atmosphere we're living in, the current tone of society and the culture we're in, and how to deal with that, and, you know, just being the shoulder to lean on, essentially, and being willing like you all are saying, willing to lose your job if need be. And that's kind of what it's going to come to. When I was speaking to the coach from Ohio State, he was saying he actually started a conversation in agreement that really the whole process of ending racism, or at least slowly improving um, the lack of racism, rather, is that people are going to have to die, whether it be physically, financially, professionally. Things are going to have to get cut off for people on both sides. Um, and if we're really going to stand up and make this change, then we're going to have to be willing to put whatever it is on the line, for not just the betterment of ourselves, to make ourselves feel good, or the people we know immediately, or are close to, whether it be our family or work, but the people that are coming behind us, people that we'll never meet, people that we never are going to know exist. They have to be willing to do that for the betterment of the country and humankind. Um, my dog's trying to knock the door in, but yeah, just be willing to make yourself vulnerable as they are, and be willing to sacrifice whatever it may be for you. You're saying and I've dealt with it myself at the school. Kids voice their opinion, and their coach either punishes them or threatens to kick them off the team. And that's the reality of it. The kids are sacrificing something by voicing their opinions. So we have to be, or should be able to do the same. Obviously, perceptively, we feel like our loss would be greater just because we have families and bills and things like that. But sacrifice is sacrifice at the end of the day. Kids' perspective, they can only see up to 15, 16 years old, so they don't really know what it's like to have to take care of somebody else outside of yourself. So if they're willing to sacrifice something that they work for, they spend hours and hours, trying to improve, they're going to sacrifice that to put themselves out there, whether it be to the coach they're speaking of or to you guys, as just being a moderator, or a middleman, for the lack of a better term. Then we definitely should be willing to sacrifice for them. Maybe that can open another dialogue or spark something inside of the kids, saying, hey, this coach, even the kids that you aren't able, Coach Bentley, that you don't deal with, the Black kids that you don't deal with, they can see you did something for one of your Hispanic athletes, and be like, hey, he's willing to step up for this kid. So I might not know him, but I can see that he's doing something positive for somebody else when they're dealing with something. So I know I can, go to him if I need something, or maybe I can reach out to my coach and see if they're willing to do something similar, and go from there. I think a lot of the times, especially now, because I've been in more contact with people that aren't from this area, which is great. I think about the end of Planet of the Apes, the first one, not the original, but like the first remake, I guess. When the pilot gets infected with whatever virus, and then the plane takes off and it goes all over the place. I think of that graphic, and how with technology now, which is obviously how we got connected, we can spread messages infinitely faster than they could have been spread, back in the 60s, 70s, the civil rights era, basically. So just not obviously talking to the kids that are right in front of us, the parents that are right in front of us, faculty, other coaches, things like that. That's super important. But then taking that message and sharing it to everybody else, just so they can see, this is what these coaches who put their time into the sport, this is what they think is important. This is what they're pushing for. This is what they believe in. So then they have to look at themselves in the mirror and say, either I agree or disagree, essentially. Before you're speaking about the teachers or teachers and coaches that I guess didn't pick a side because they didn't want to, I guess, say something inappropriate or more harmful and cause more problems. But you know, at some point they're going to have to, because somebody's going to ask, or they're going to be put in a position where they have to speak on it. So at some point they're going to have to pick a side, voice their opinion, and that's kind of what the first week, you know, I was saying, you know, there's a lot of coaches that have Black athletes that aren't saying anything, and that's a problem. The same applies to teachers, administration, whoever it is. They're not just black people, Black kids, Hispanic, Asian, whoever they are, minorities. They're being used for their services essentially, while they're being abused, and nobody's speaking on it, but you're still using them up. So there's going to come a point now everybody is not, obviously not saying, you know, I started any of this, because I didn't. But now all these companies are kind of, you know, stating their beliefs, you know, whether I'm a conspiracy theorist, but for whatever reason, you know, that they're putting these statements out, they're putting the statements out, and that's going to be eternal. So they're not able to, you know, back it up and stand behind it 100%. You know, that'll cause problems. I'm sure y'all saw, who was it, Greg Glassman, the CEO of CrossFit?
Yeah.
Yeah, his little blunder. You know, I wouldn't say he picked a side per se, but that's how it was interpreted. So yeah, you're just gonna have to, you know, state your claim on, you know, what your beliefs are, because it's kind of been like obviously, you know, the history of, you know, from slavery all the way through civil rights. You know, there are the images and the little speech clips, I guess, of the times, and you know, you can see who is, you know, for what, or who believes in what, but there is almost like a fog in between then and, you know, the last 20 or so years, as if this were a different country or something. So people aren't completely comfortable speaking on it, either A, because they're not super familiar with it, which is fine. But the thought that, you know, you didn't know what was going on, that doesn't cut it anymore, just because there is so much recent evidence of racism in this country that you saying that is simply just, you know, you're just lying to yourself and us. So yeah, just, I say all of that to say, you know, just essentially just be there for the kids. I know this sounds super generic, but just be there for the kids, and be willing to step up when they need you to step up, and step to whoever you need to step to, you know, either tell them what's going on, tell them why they're wrong, be willing to call people out if you need to. Obviously, you don't have to do it, you know, in a super public way or whatever. But just be willing and able to stand for what you believe in, and go from there. And yeah.
That's honestly really helpful. I saw this tweet like 2 hours ago that it was a coach tweeting to another coach. So it was like, all of these coaches are like, what do we do? What do we do? And we're all overthinking it. And he's like, well, we wouldn't be coaches if we didn't overthink everything.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, just like that KISS thing, or keep it simple, or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, like, I would tell people that all day long, but to turn around and tell myself, like,
yeah, right, yeah.
I'm not gonna listen to me. Are you kidding?
Right. But I'm not gonna write my own program.
No, I won't, and I never have. Never have. No, I won't do it.
Yeah. The simpler, the better.
Yeah.
Um,
Is that
I was gonna say our students also have a big like you don't snitch kind of thing too.
yeah, yeah,
It's like a huge thing for our kids, but we're super fortunate. Just recently, a bunch of former Iowa Hawkeyes kind of released some statements about their strength coach.
yeah,
And when you're releasing a statement about the highest paid strength coach in the country, um, I'm very curious what the University of Iowa will do. I assume he won't have a job, but um, who knows? But
his
I
son just
think,
transferred? I'm sure he's out.
yeah, and that's the thing is if you, yeah, I would assume that he's done, but that'll show our students a lot too. Like
hmm
I teach middle school, and that's one of the things that I hate it when kids say snitches get stitches. It's just like I kind of freak out on that because that becomes a bigger issue later on down the road. If there's
hmm
something big that happens, like we have some crime that happens, and a lot of people probably witness it, but no one will speak on it
right.
because they don't want it to come back to them. And there's just a lot of fear in that. And it's weird that there's fear in it, but no one wants to be a Karen either, like no one wants it's like that's like the hardest part. It's like, dang, I don't want to be a Karen. Like that
Yeah,
sucks.
yeah.
I
I
also
will say, in the, and I'm not, well, I know why it's a thing, but in the Black community, there is this idea that I guess parents impress on their kids is that, um, we shouldn't give all of our information to white people that are in um, superior positions or supervisory positions, which kind of ties into the snitches get stitches type thing, and that's either literally taught or kind of implied, that we shouldn't lean into our white counterparts, which I think now with this younger generation, I think that's starting to hopefully dissipate. But it is, it could be an issue that really has to be dealt with inside of the Black community. But just so you're aware, it is a common ideology in the Black community that you don't talk to the cops.
Yeah.
Don't talk to the cops, and then you don't tell white people all your business, which is it. It's a ideology that goes all the way back to slavery, and like so many other things that are still around, really. So yeah, I totally get it, and I hear it all the time with the kids I work with. But I tell them to snitch on their friends all the time, because I know, whether they be skipping practice or late to practice, whatever it is, you gotta hold each other accountable. You gotta hold yourself accountable. You gotta hold the coaches accountable. Whoever it is you're dealing with, regardless of what position you're in, whether it be student, athlete, administration, coach, parent, there has to be accountability across the board, or none of this will matter.